Hello everyone, welcome to the very first videocast slash podcast of Ahead in the Game. Before we get started, I just want to say on behalf of myself and all the rest of the people involved, big thank you to everyone who supported us so far. It's been really overwhelming. Our mission is to raise awareness around mental health. We've partnered with two excellent charities, Shine and Jigsaw. On today's show, we're going to be chatting with three of the members of Monaghan Town FC who are running 500k and raising money for both of our associated charities. After that, we are going to be speaking with a League of Ireland legend, Dave Rogers, about his experience with mental health. Very, very good conversation. It got very deep, and we really appreciate it. And we again want to thank before you listen. We want to thank Dave for his time and for being willing to open up and share with us. Without further ado, we'll get started and we'll move on to the lads from Monaghan Town. Enjoy. All right, big thanks to three members of Monaghan Town Football Club for coming on to chat about their fundraiser in association with the Head in the Game campaign for our charity partners, Shine and Mental Health. How's it going, boys?
Not too bad. How's it going?
We've got Shane Hannon, we've got Darren Smith, and we've got Paul Smith on. So firstly, boys, we'll get straight into it. So can you talk us through your fundraiser?
I suppose basically we haven't played much football this year, Dean, at all. We've been out of action since February, March. And basically then a number of weeks back, we got back training for about 5 or 6 sessions. And, you know, it was brilliant to get back. Absolutely fantastic to get back. But as you know, it was short-lived. And we had to stop again. So basically, you know, we want to just keep doing something and basically come up with an idea of that we would maybe check in with different runs into the WhatsApp group. And then from there kind of developed into, right, let's have a challenge and let's and then it you know, we went into saying maybe let's get do it for charity. So we had a discussion with the boys and the first and probably the only thing that came up was about mental health. You know, could we support mental health? Because I think everybody is, you know, felt a bit low or a bit down during the last couple of months, and mental health just comes right up and it screams out that people, you know, that them services, you know, need support.
Brilliant. So that's the main reason why you chose mental health, just that obviously it's at the forefront of everybody's minds right now with everything going on, right?
Absolutely, and also we have noticed that the launch of your own initiative, Head in the Game, and you know, in terms of the video that you've released and stuff, and you know the positive impact that had a number of weeks back when you launched that. So I suppose that was in our minds. It's relevant because it's, you know, local football, League of Ireland, and you know, I know there's a lot of good lads behind the initiative. So that was sort of a reason as well to connect with such a initiative like your own.
And then, so your fundraiser, it's a 500k. Shane, do you feel getting active will have a positive impact on your own individual and the collective mental health of the team during the lockdown right now?
Oh, definitely, Dean. I mean, I think when Paul speaks about mental health and we kind of got back to training there a couple of months ago, and there was a bit of a camaraderie going with the team. There was a lot of young boys. I was only coming back I retired at the tender age of about 19, and the boys kept going well into Paul's about 46 at this point. So they all kept going. But it was, once we all got back on the pitch, even in the last couple of months, a lot of us didn't even know each other. But to be fair, now the camaraderie's been unbelievable. The WhatsApp group's been hopping the last while. And then when you see that there's a 6-week lockdown coming in again, you get a bit deflated because you're thinking, we're just getting into a nice groove here. We're just getting into something good. There's young boys involved, and you worry maybe the young boys' heads might drop when there's no training, no matches to look forward to, and there's nothing to do really. And we'll all kind of taper off and go back into doing nothing and into oblivion essentially when there's no matches. But to be fair, you know, the lads started up this WhatsApp and this initiative, and you know, anyone who was skeptical about it the first couple of days, Dean, I'll tell you what, the straight away there was kilometres being run. There was fellas just, Alan Ballantyne, I mean, ran a few K one of the days, and I hadn't seen Alan Ballantyne run further than 18 yards in my entire life, the length of the box. So the fact that he was out running as well was probably giving other people a boost as well. And some of the lads were, you know, Jimmy Traynor, Mark Mulhall, and then the young lads were getting involved as well, banging out good times. Jason McHugh was banging out good times. Connor Campbell's got the record. My ankle's a bit at me the last couple of days, so I'll have to get back out in the pavement tomorrow and beat his record. But to be honest with you, Dean, it's been incredible, and it's only the start of the 6 weeks, but I think over the next couple of weeks we're going to keep going, and we I think the target was 500k, but we're going to blow that out of the water, and hopefully we'll blow the donations out of the water as well.
Yeah, it's been the donations have been good to watch, and it's been great to see even Darren clocking up the miles and putting it up on his social media. You just mentioned it.
My own point, it's just saying there, Dean. Like from a manager's point of view, like I manage a team, and I suppose as the lads touched on, like we weren't gonna be able to continue the training sessions, and the camaraderie had been good up until that, and I suppose it's about finding ways to keep the boys motivated. And come here, Paul come up with the idea, like, and the boys have really got on the back of it and rode with it, and it's brilliant. Like come here, we won't see the boys for a while, but as Shane said, the WhatsApp group is good. Like, and I know myself personally asked the question, like, how's it good for your own mental health? Like, if anyone that knows me knows I hate running. If you put a ball in front of me, I might do a wee bit of running, but anyone that knows me, I hate running. Come here, I suppose I was one of the first to go out and see myself on top of the leaderboard, and I think it's probably, I have to keep myself there. It's probably the big thing, and I suppose there's a few lads behind me. So Shane hadn't mentioned a few there. He hasn't run yet. I'm waiting for him just to do one run and blow me out of the water. It's a good initiative, and come here, if you can keep fit and raise money for two good causes at the same time, and build up that camaraderie, as Shane said, I think it's only a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. And you set a target, Darren, for €500 to raise. You've blown that out of the water. Do you want to just kind of let people know how quickly you've managed to raise that?
Yeah, well, we've a core group of, I'd say, maybe 20 young lads, like, and come here, when the banter gets going and the boys want to clock up the miles, and then suppose put it on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, people do see it, and I suppose, if we're being honest, like, there probably isn't, every one of us have been affected by mental health in some way over our life, like, so I know some people might see it on Facebook, and it's a great cause. And it's great to be involved in it. And come here, the more money we can raise, the better. We set the target at 500. I suppose it just rhymed with the 500k, €500. But listen, I would be forced to say I'd love to smash that to pieces, like, and raise as much money as we can for two great causes.
Yeah. And then, have you got any message, and this is open to any one of you, if you've got a message for anyone that may be suffering a little bit now during lockdown, that might be encouraged by the fundraiser and actually what you're doing, by doing the runs, if any of it have a message, you can throw it out there.
I don't, like, me personally, like, I hate running. I detest it in a lot of ways, but I have to say now, I've been off working at school in Carrick Cross, and been off this last week. And midterm, getting up every morning to do the run, to try and stay on top of the leaderboard. I'll obviously not stay there when the boys get into the groove, but getting up and doing that run and setting that target every day and seeing my name at the top, it's been brilliant for me. So I'm delighted that it's got up and running. And anyone out there, like, you don't have to break any records. I'm not going to break them. So if you are feeling that, you just get out and do it, and you feel so much better for doing it.
I think even just, to add to what these are saying there, like, when we're trying to come up with an idea, when the lads were coming up with an idea of what charity to pick and what cause to pick, I mean, mental health was, given the times we're living in, Dean, I suppose mental health was probably the main one that we were all thinking of. And like, especially with young lads in our team, and we're all young males, and clearly young males are often affected by mental health and bottling things up and not talking about things. But when you see a group of young lads going out, and older lads as well, going out and doing something like this and raising awareness for it, raising money for it, we're coming into Movember as well, when there's going to be a lot of people raising money for men's mental health charities as well. And even if it just highlights to one person out there that it's okay to talk, it's okay to show weakness, it's okay to be anxious about things. Some people are anxious about going back into work when all this is over. People are anxious about a lot of different things, but little things can help, whether it's fresh air, getting out a bit of exercise every day, whether it's getting up a little bit earlier to get a bit of sun in these dark evenings, go out for a walk, talk to your family, put your phone away for an hour or two before bed, whatever it is, it can only help you. And I think that the main thing, look, the money we're raising is clearly important, but the cause and raising awareness for it is even more important. Because I was watching a video on some of the lads might have seen it as well, but on Facebook, because about a week or two ago, like, the North Monaghan area was affected by a young male committing suicide, or taking his own life. very sad incident, and sadly not an isolated one either. But there was a Facebook post put up of, there was a young fella, and I'm sure he won't mind me naming his name because he posted it publicly and there's thousands of views on it, but James McKnight put up an 11-minute video detailing his own mental health issues and explaining to people that it was okay to talk. And I think if we do something small by letting people know that it's okay to talk and raising awareness for it over the next few weeks, it can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. Paul, have you anything you want to throw in there?
Just to suppose conclude what the boys have said, that thanks to everybody who has donated to the initiative so far. Like, we're really grateful for the support. But I think we've helped each other as well. And Shane mentioned there, we raised awareness. That it is okay to talk. I think even within our group of 20 young males, young middle-aged males as well. But we've sort of kept each other going. Where these 6 weeks, or maybe 6 weeks and beyond, could have been difficult, but I think we've kept a bit of banter going. We've kept ourselves together, even though we're not together. But we've helped ourselves first and foremost, and then hopefully, if we can raise some money, we can help other people through the Jigsaw and Shine Mental Health Services. But thanks to everybody who's donated. Like, we've raised 1,000 at the minute. We've 36 days still to go within the challenge. We've ran over 170 something kilometers so far, so we're very much on track. But the boys are determined to really, go past the 500 kilometers and to raise, even more money over the next couple of weeks. So we've raised 1,000. We started trying to get 500. We're looking to see can we raise some more. So if anybody out there is listening, we love your support, and thanks to those who have supported already.
Brilliant. Just on behalf, before I go to my last question, on behalf of the rest of the lads involved in the Head in the Game campaign, I just want to say a big thanks to all three of you and everybody involved in the fundraiser. This is the very first fundraiser that's been associated with the campaign. Originally, Head in the Game we just set out that we were going to try raise awareness among League of Ireland, but very quickly it's kind of evolved into something that's much bigger, around football at any level, at grassroots level, as well as the professional game. So just on behalf of myself and the lads, we just want to say a big thanks to everyone at Monaghan Town for getting involved, for doing this, and kind of kicking off our own fundraising initiatives that we'll be going into moving forward at the end of this year and moving into 2021. And the last question I have for you lads would be, if people want to donate or get in touch with you, how do they do so? So what social media channels? And before you just answer that, Paul, I know I grew up in Cavan a long time and I promised you I'd donate, so it's just taken me a little while to open the wallet, so but I will eventually.
Good man, Dean. You got the wallets open.
Yeah, that's the other thing I think, lads, as well. Just when you mentioned Cavan, and obviously Monaghan Cavan playing this weekend, that was the other thing about sport. I think when I know the three of you lads are the same as well. When we were driving out to trainings in Clontibbert there on a Tuesday evening, it was one of the highlights of the week, and that was one of the dark things. We were heading into this 6 weeks and we had no trainings, but having this run means we can go out training by ourselves any day of the week, and the fact that we have to post it into the WhatsApp group almost kicks you on a bit further, because you're going to be judged and the lads are going to be looking at your time and your pace. But the importance of sport is crucial. There was a lot of people talking about the GAA and whether the inter-county season should go ahead in level 5, but and look, we leave that up to the epidemiologists and doctors and everyone else to decide those things. But the fact that Monaghan are playing Cavan this weekend and people are talking about it. I had arguments with the Alboy there all day about it all week, and it's something to look forward to. And if Monaghan win, they play again next week. Dundalk are playing. Everyone wants to talk about it. So I think the importance of sport at a time like this as well can't be underestimated. And for us to have that, binded into a team spirit as well over the next few weeks with this WhatsApp and these runs is massively important. I think the lads might agree.
Absolutely.
Brilliant, lads. So do you want to just give a shout out on your social media channels or social media pages?
They're just basically on Facebook. We're on Twitter, Monaghan Town FC. We're on Instagram now as well. Or look at if you know any of our club members, you can you're more than welcome to give a donation, and we can obviously add it to the total amount as well. But any format, social media, there's a GoFundMe page obviously on a link on all those platforms.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much, lads. Best luck with the rest of the campaign, and hopefully we might get in touch with you again at the end of it. See how many miles Paul done.
Just a couple. Good man, Dean. Thanks very much.
Thanks a million, lads. Big thank you to Shane, Darren and Paul for coming on and chatting about their fundraiser with Monaghan Town FC. We really appreciate anybody that gets involved and helps raise money and raise awareness around mental health and is able to contribute money to our charity partners. So thanks very much to the lads and to everyone involved in that. Now, moving on, I think everyone's going to enjoy this. You're going to get something out of this. As I say in the interview, none of us are experts in mental health. This is about having a conversation, people opening up, telling their own story. I really think you're going to enjoy it. You know, it's a conversation that I think we all need to have. And as I said at the beginning of the show, we really appreciate Dave's time. So I'm not really going to say much else, and we'll start with the big man. Now, everyone, I'm delighted to welcome a League of Ireland legend. I was going to name off all of his clubs, but I felt a little bit like I'd be introducing Tiger Woods. So someone who needs really no introduction in League of Ireland circles, a 3-time League of Ireland champion with Shelbourne. Mr. Dave Rogers. Dave, how's it going?
Dean, great to see you, mate. All good. Pleasure to be on, and good to see a familiar face.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know, Dave, a little bit like myself, is coaching out here in the States. He's coaching down in Arizona, and we've been in touch a lot over the last probably 6-7 months, even longer since he got the gig out here. So Dave, we really appreciate you coming on to discuss your experience with mental health. But before we start with that, just in case there's anyone listening maybe that isn't an avid League of Ireland fan, could you give a short kind of background? And again, I said, you know, about all the clubs you have, but if you give a short background about your career, from playing and now what you're doing as a coach.
Yeah, again, Dino, appreciate you having me on. It's a fantastic cause and a fantastic, you know, incentive that you've brought here, mate. And you know, I know there's many people supporting it, and I'm one of them. I think it's amazing. And very briefly, born and bred in Liverpool, brought up an Everton fan, played all my youth career at Everton, blue blood, as we say. You know, then went in to play for Tranmere Rovers, Chester City, Dundee in the Scottish Premier League, moved over to the Netherlands to play for Cambuur. That was a great experience. It gave me a new insight into, you know, different techniques and different styles, helped me become a different player, both on the field and off the field. And then obviously the breakthrough for Ireland was when Mr. Roddy Collins, who's another good guy and a great character, recommended me to Pat Fenlon. I flew over, met Pat, met everybody at Shelbourne, and you know, the rest is history. Great times there, great people, great to be in Ireland with great fans. I've always, no matter whether it was good banter or, you know, even a little bit of bad banter, should we say, a little bit of abuse, which I've taken during my time, but always in good spirits. But one thing about the League of Ireland fans, passionate, dedicated, and the way they volunteer their time to grow the clubs is a credit to all of them. So, yeah, as you said, more clubs than Tiger Woods. That was only towards the end of my career. We won't get into too much of that, but no, I don't look back and think I should have done this, I should have done that. I just look back and say how lucky and privileged I was to spend my time with so many good people, you know, so many good clubs, so many experiences, and you know, we're lucky and we're privileged to be in that position, and I'll always be grateful to the people that I met along the way.
Excellent. I think just looking at your social media and stuff, you're quite active on Twitter, Dave. And when you look at all the clubs you've played for, no matter how long you played for them and stuff, it seems that you maintained a good relationship with everybody at any club you've been to. And I know any supporters of clubs that you played for, they always loved having you on their team. Maybe not when you played against them, but they always loved having you on their team. And we're going to take a deep dive into the conversation around mental health now. And before we do that, I just want to kind of preface to anybody that's listening that I'm not an expert in this. Dave's not an expert in this. We're just talking about each other's experiences. And we're just hoping that by Dave opening up about his experience, that it just might connect with somebody and just hopefully people will be able to open up and speak a little bit themselves. And that's kind of what the Head in the Game program is trying to do right now. So talking about your career, Dave, while you were playing, particularly we look kind of more directly at your career in Ireland. Did you find it tough mentally being a professional footballer in Ireland? And I'm kind of talking about that, the 40-week contracts, or, you know, we spoke a little bit, well, I'll let you go into kind of more detail about your career, but mentally, and maybe it didn't at the time, but did you find it tough looking back on your career, trying to make it as a professional player in Ireland?
Yeah, it was definitely, it had its challenges, Dean. You know, even to this day, there's a lot of good people in League of Ireland who are trying to do the right things. If I go back to 2002, 2003, when I arrived at Shelbourne, really good teams, strong players, strong characters mentally. I always put myself down as being, you know, mentally strong. But then you do go through spells where, and if I hit home when we were playing the Shells and everything was going great on the field, but unfortunately off the field we were hitting some bad times. You know, we stopped getting paid. So you're saying there, was it mentally challenging? Absolutely. You know, when you've got bills to pay, when you're trying to pay a mortgage. You know, at that time I had a newborn baby girl, and you're going into training every day, and the fact that we had a really good support mechanism of players at Tolka Park that time, you know, some great leaders, some really good personalities. We fed off each other. And I feel then if we didn't have that bonding that we had, it would have affected us a lot more, because I remember finishing training, you know, at the AUL, and, you know, we'd go maybe to Fagan's and have a bit of lunch together, and lads would be going to the coffee shop together and just chatting and, you know, just saying, look, we're going to be okay if we stick together, we'll get through it. But you'd walk into a supermarket, and, you know, by that time it was all over the newspapers, and, you know, Shells are going through a bad time and the players are not getting paid, and people would always comment, and not in a bad way. You know, they might just come up to you and say, oh, have you been paid this week, or are you going to get paid next week? So that would trigger a little seed in your mind that, you know, you were in a situation that was difficult. And like I said, you know, there was sleepless nights. There was times where you're worrying about, you know, where's the next paycheck going to come? But at the same time, still being able to focus your day-to-day job on the field, because, like I said, I felt we had a really good dressing room with some really good people and characters that were there to support each other.
Yeah, I think talking about that Shells team, they're always in the bracket of one of the best ever, and I think that's a fair shout with them. So just kind of going off what you're saying there, you'd find that the football would have been an escape from everything that was going on, and would that, even in your own head, have been like a little bit of a mask from the issues that were happening off the field, or were you well aware of those?
Yeah, we were aware of it. I was aware of it, and I'd say 95%. If 100% of the boys at that time were well aware of what was going on off the field, behind the scenes. But we had this bond, we had this spirit between everyone. Like I said, being in the dressing room, and, you know, Pat Fenman, I can only not only imagine, I now know through my own coaching career, which we'll probably touch on, what Pat must have been going through as a manager, because, you know, we were knocking on Pat's door. You know, when are we getting paid, Gaffer? And, you know, when's the pays? When are we getting our money? And so I can only imagine at that time the stress and the strain that Pat would have been under, because if we were under that strain as players, he's the guy that brought us to the club. He's the guy that sold us the dream, sold us the, you know, what he was expecting from us. So, you know, Pat, to be fair, had good staff around him as well. Mick Neville, great character, great guy. Fred Davis. At the time, it was, I think Johnny Mack had just moved on, and Eamon Collins had come in, and Eamon was really the type of character that would crack the jokes and, you know, set the tone at the training sessions. And like I said, it was difficult, but I always felt myself, Dean, I could put my game face on. Being on the training pitch was my escape. It was my happy place, you know. And then it was when you get in your car after training and you're driving home, that's when it sort of hits you. That's when the reality dawns on you that, have you got enough money to pay your car at the end of the month? Have you got enough money to go and get a week shopping in, a month shopping in? But like I said, we were resilient. We were together, and the lads at that time. Like I said, I know I always have a conversation. You mentioned about being one of the best teams in League of Ireland. In my opinion, we were, but not just for what we done on the field. It was for what we were like off the field. You know, shoulder to lean on, picking up the phone, looking out for each other, a message. You know, meeting up with each other, for me, it was that camaraderie, it was that togetherness off the field, that sort of, and I always say we were men, we were a group of men, you know, that really cared for each other and really looked after each other.
So that ties on nicely to another question I have, and it sounds like at Shelbourne it wasn't too hard to confide in each other, probably because the struggles were something everyone was going through. But as you kind of progressed through your career and went on to other clubs, would you have found it hard with any struggles you might have had, even going towards the end of your career? To, like in football, we see football fans, football players as these hard men that don't open up, and that's part of our campaign, is that we're trying to, you know, get people open up. Maybe leaving the shells thing aside, would you have found it hard to open up?
Absolutely, and you, again, you've made a great point. Footballers get this sort of target of being hard men, of being, you know, they can take whatever comes at them. And myself, I always sort of thought I was, you know, a tough defender, Scouse accent, shaved hair, goatee beard. You know, was I tough on the field? Absolutely. I'd always put myself as, you know, I wasn't afraid of a challenge, as in not a challenge in a tackle, or, but, you know, a challenge as a team, a challenge personally, you know, collectively. But what would I have been one of them people where I'm thinking, I'm a man, you know, I'm playing professional football, I'm okay, I don't need to speak to anybody, I don't need to open up? Absolutely, at that time. And when I look back now, Dean, I wish I'd have opened up a lot earlier, because it's not good, it's not healthy to keep inside, you know, the emotion, the stress, the depression that you're going through. Sometimes, you know, I'd wake up with a really bad migraine. I wouldn't have slept much through the night. I could go and put a training session in, and then I'd feel like crap afterwards. But I'm putting that down. I'm thinking, why am I so fatigued? Why do I feel, you know, lightheaded? Why do I feel I've got no energy when I'm 28, 29 years of age? I'm in my prime. It wasn't down to fitness. It was down to the fact that my mental health was suffering, but I was trying to oversee it by putting on this self-esteem image of, I'm Dave Rodgers, I'm a 6'1" defender. You know, I don't get mental health. I'm not going to get depression. When I look back, that's exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, I worked as kit man for Dundalk for a couple of years, and I worked closely in the 2012 season, and I was supposed to actually be Stephen Kenny's kit man when he came in, and a month into it, I just, you know, I felt kind of like the club should have hired me, should have paid me a wage. They weren't in a position to do it, which, looking back on it, I completely understand. But after going through the 2012 season, where you're heavily involved with Save Our Club and things like that, mentally it's tough. And, you know, it's the exact same with me. Is, you know, you just you wake up with a headache, you go to bed with a headache, and you don't know what the feeling is, you know. And it's again, even I find these conversations are good for me, that I'm able to kind of explain a little bit further about mine, and just kind of learn that, you know, you're not on your own with this. But moving on now, Dave. So you spoke earlier, kind of off camera with me, that you retired at the age of 36. How was that? And we're going to kind of talk about your adjustment from playing to coaching, but how was that initial stop, you know, from being involved every day to not being on the training ground?
Do you know what, Dean? It's a strange feeling, and it's a cliche, where I actually don't miss playing, and I never missed playing, but I miss that every day-to-day interaction with your teammates, you know, getting in the car, picking up one or two of your teammates on the way, and getting into the ground, and it was the atmosphere and that sort of routine. I mean, I've done it for 21 years, you know, so when all of a sudden that comes to a stop, it was the biggest culture shock in my life. I went on then, like I said, I didn't have any coaching qualifications at the age of 36. I should have done it looking back, and I did speak to you earlier. I should have done my coaching qualifications, you know, during the period of my latter stages. But when you're getting older, and then you've got kids, and you think at the end of every season you spend a bit of family time, and, you know, you spend a bit of time with the kids, because the coaching qualifications would always be, you know, sort of when it was your rest period. But looking back, I should have done that. Though going into the missing the game, I never missed playing in front of the fans, you know, in stadiums. That's a love. You love that. So that's a natural sort of habitat where it's not just about being paid. It's being paid for something that you love to do. The obsession, the passion of getting out on a stage and showing people that you care, showing people what you love to do. It was the day-to-day interaction with my teammates. It was that whole ritual of, you know, finishing training and sitting in the canteen and having a scrambled egg on toast and a cup of tea. Or that was the little things that affected me. Did it affect me right away? No. It came in a sort of staged period where I got myself a job with An Post as a postman, which a lot of ex-League of Ireland players do. And, you know, I ended up working with Boots Grant, who's one of my closest friends, and Mark O'Brien, who played for Dundalk as well. And, you know, being with the lads sort of alleviated a little bit of that pain. And, you know, you're having a banter and I'm walking through the streets of Balbriggan and Skerries, and you meet League of Ireland fans and they're stopping you and, "Scouts, have a cup of tea, come and have a slice of toast." And that was brilliant. But it took me about 6 to 12 months after I actually stopped playing when I hit this brick wall, Dean. And the brick wall I hit was just something like I'd never hit before. I didn't want to get out of bed. I started eating junk food. You know, I started drinking fizzy drinks, which I'd never touched. I became lazy. And I'm wondering to myself, how am I getting into this rut? How can I get out of it? Because it really, like I said, it came like a bolt from the blue. And I knew inside I had problems, but I didn't want to admit it to myself. And I'm not sure, I know my family could see this as well. I didn't want to spend time with the kids. I didn't want to, you know, spend time with my wife. I was miserable. I was getting narky, frustrated. I knew I had problems, Dean, but like we touched on, I'm a man. I'm Dave Rodgers, the ex-professional player. You know, this is not going to happen to me. When I look back, it's exactly what was happening.
So is that kind of why, Dave, then, that you transitioned into coaching? I know you'd said you always kind of wanted to do it and wish you'd done it sooner. Was that a way of coping when you hit that brick wall, you know, to get back into coaching, get back on the field in a different capacity?
Yeah, and again, it was sort of compensating for, you know, you've played for so long, you've been in the public eye, you know, in the fresh air, in the open, doing what you love doing. I'd always had the burning desire, like you mentioned. I always wanted to be a coach and be a manager, but it was breaking that barrier of saying to myself, get out of bed, stop feeling sorry for yourself, speak to somebody, and get that lust and passion back of what you love to do. Because I really did want to give something back to the game. I wanted to give something back to the community. And you know yourself, you know, I've lived in Dundalk now for 12 years. My brother-in-laws are all, you know, season ticket holders at Oriel. And, you know, did they give me stick back when I was playing? Obviously, you know, we always look back on it and laugh and joke about it. All my in-laws are from the town, and I've loved living there, you know, and still do. So for me, it was setting up a little academy in Dundalk, and all of a sudden going from 10 kids one week to 120, 150 kids the week after. That gave me that little bit of zest. It gave me that little bit of impetus to say, come on, you've got something to kick on now. You've got something to go and give back to people that, you know, deserve an opportunity like I got when I was a kid. So yeah, being back out there, being back with people, being on the field and being able to do what I feel as though I'm good at and interacting was an absolute godsend, and it really put me back in a happy place. Good,
that's great to hear. And now moving on to your coaching career, Dave. It's fair to say that your coaching career isn't a traditional one. You know, you've your journey has been a long one, but it's also been it's made you go worldwide. You know, which I think, as an Irishman now living in Chicago doing it for a living, it's it helps you get out of your comfort zone. But how has that been? How has that journey been in terms of like going to different cultures and different countries?
Dean, again, it was I couldn't have expected. I mean, it's only been 8 years since I started my UEFA B license, and in those 8 years, I've gone from UEFA B, UEFA A, Elite Youth, and obviously over the last 6 months, I've passed the UEFA Pro license. It's been an absolute whirlwind, but it's been an amazing experience. And you're right. I never once thought I'd go and work in India, South Korea, Nepal, Bangladesh, the USA. You know, for me, I'd always listen. Have I spoke to League of Ireland clubs in the past? Yeah. Is the League of Ireland close to my heart, where I'd love to come back one day and really take a club forward the way I know I can? Absolutely. But yourself being a fellow, you know, a fellow coach who's travelled from Ireland, and there's so much the world has to offer. And you're absolutely right, Dean. It's took me out my comfort zone, but it's gave me the best education I've had in my life. You know, I've witnessed things in third world countries that make me sit back and tell my kids, we're lucky to have water. We're lucky to have electricity. You know, when you've got food on the table, appreciate what you've got. But it's also taken me to levels that I never dreamt I'd get at such a short period of time since stepping into the coaching world. Academy manager for Liverpool internationally, amazing. Assistant coach for the Indian national team. You know, Stephen Constantine giving me an opportunity. Head coach in the Indian leagues, and you know, dealing with budgets and dealing with the personalities and characteristics that we'll go on to. You know, just developing players. People talk about winning things, and yeah, at senior level, you've got to win things. You're expected to win things. But the biggest trophy for me is when I see a player that I've helped give an opportunity to through development, step into a first team, step into an international team. There's no better feeling. And that's the same over here now with FC Arizona. Another fantastic project, a club that we're growing consistently on and off the field. But again, my travels have provided me with challenges and, you know, emotions that have been very tough to come through.
So talking a little bit more about your your challenges, you know, speaking from my own experience in 2017, and a big reason why I've been a part of this Head in the Game campaign. I lost my uncle to suicide back in Dundalk, and I was out here in the States, wasn't able to travel back and stuff, and that hit me hard. 6 months later, my grandfather passed away also in Dundalk. I couldn't go home for his funeral either, and like I think a week or two before my grandfather passed away, I ended up in a hospital after a night out drinking, and that kind of just that set the wheels in motion for me. With me now wife, she wasn't very happy to find out I woke up in a hospital and things like that, you know, and it forced me kind of to reevaluate my whole life. You know, it was not a nice situation, but obviously some good has come from it. I'm healthier than I ever was and things like that there. But going on to, I know you haven't really spoke very publicly about your time in India, and I know your mental health really hit a low point over there. If that's something you're comfortable talking about, if you're about that.
Absolutely, Dean. It was, so I after 3 years as the international academy manager for Liverpool, I stepped up as the head coach for our partnership club, the SK Shavagians, who were in the I-League. Fantastic owner, run by a really good company. Brought in my own staff. You know, I could bring in John Andrews, who done the A licence with me. John played for Cove Ramblers in Cork City. Barry Knowles I brought from England. You know, I could bring in a couple of other Liverpool staff. So it really gave me an opportunity to put my stamp on things, and it was going great. We get to January the 1st, 2017, and the salary stopped. And I'd signed Shane McFall, Shane who done brilliant for St. Pat's and UCD, and I signed Shane on a 3-year contract. I'd signed a guy, Sasha Kalanesia from Serbia. I brought in Juan Cuero from Spain. Good professionals, good players who like Pat Fenlon done with us at Shells. And I touch back on that with my experience now. I sold these guys the dream. The manager, come and play for me, guys. Here's what I'm trying to build. Here's what we can offer. Here's the environment I want to create for the younger players we're going to bring through. When you're the manager, Dean, of 26 players and 12 technical staff, and all your administration staff, and you know, your kit man, your tea lady, all of a sudden when you stop getting paid, it's like a big brick wall gets put right in front of you. For the first 4 to 6 weeks, we were managing okay. I was managing to keep the motivation going of the boys and the staff, and you know, some of my best team talks with my staff were in my apartment of a night time over a glass of wine. You know, we could open up to each other. We could, you know, have a glass of wine and how are we going to get through this, and everyone giving their own little bit of information and look, we'll be good, we'll stick together. But then when it got into the second and third month, Dean, was when it really hit me. I had India international players knocking on my door, crying in my arms. Gaffer, I need my money. I've got to pay my bills. I've got 12 members of family who live with me and I need to pay my car. I've got to pay for my furniture. And it started to hit me, Dean.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, my wife and kids were back in Dundalk. They never moved to India, but they would come and spend some holidays. And I remember my wife saying to me, come home. Because every time we spoke on Zoom or FaceTime, and she could see that I was getting thinner.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see it, but she could see I was getting thinner, the strain, the bags under the eyes. I wasn't sleeping, Dean. I was more focused on how can I help my players. I'm banging on the door to the owner. What's going on? I want answers. It was lie after lie after lie. And I basically sat down one day with the players and I said, guys, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I don't see us getting paid. If you want to stand up now and leave and walk out the door, I'll shake your hand. I'll help you find another club. The same to my staff. These are people that I've sold the dream to, Dean. These are people that have give up other clubs, give up other countries, lifestyles, to come and play for Dave Rogers and to come and play for BSK Shavagians. And every one of them to a man, and I will never forget them, even my staff, said, Gaffer, we're not going anywhere unless you go. Mm. We're here for the fight. We came together, we'll stick together, and we'll look after each other. And that for me, the emotion at that time, I welled up in front of everyone. I'm not afraid, I'm not ashamed to sit here and say, I got emotional. And every one of them players stuck by me. We got through the last 6 or 7 months of the season. We won a cup. We finished 5th in the league. And you talk about the emotion and the stress and the mental side. I ended up missing the last league game because I was rushed to hospital and put on 2 drips for 48 hours because I'd lost so much energy, so much weight. It was my own medical department that sent me to hospital. And it was then when I realised I'm in trouble. Mm-hmm. You know, and again, it nearly cost me my marriage. You know, my family back home in Liverpool and Ireland were just come home. What are you doing? You know, you're going to kill yourself. But I felt I owed my players and my staff the obligation to stick with them, Dean. And that was I blanked everything else out to focus on the players. And do I regret it? No. But when I look back, and like we said, I should have went and spoke to someone. Mm-hmm. I should have reached out. I should have, you know, opened up to somebody. And I didn't. I was trying to fight everyone's battle. I was trying to keep it all in. And it was a really, really dark moment of my career and of my life. That when I look back now, it's taught me so many lessons and made me stronger and made me the person that I am today.
That's a crazy story, but I mean, it's good to hear. And speaking on behalf of everyone, hopefully that's listening in, I think we're all glad that you're healthy today. And it's a harrowing experience. And sometimes even when you're coaching and in any job, if you're working around people and you bring your own people in, you're still kind of on your own when you're the one that calls the shots, you know. So it's again, just to kind of reiterate, it's great to see that you're happy and healthy today.
I appreciate it, mate. It's like I said, Dean, it's been some real life lessons. And another one that quickly, I don't want to go off subject, but you mentioned about, you know, you lost a couple of people in your family. And when I arrived in Arizona a year ago, I'd only been here 48 hours. And my cousin Stephen back in Liverpool hung himself. And I couldn't get home. Mm-hmm. I couldn't go home because I just arrived, and, you know, there was so much expectation on me at the club. And it was just devastating, the fact that, and we still speak about it now. I speak to my uncle and my cousins who are still there from Stephen's brothers. And, you know, it's again, you've got to speak out. It's not, you're not being anything less than a man by speaking out. You know, it's people are there to help. And, you know, I wish my cousin would have picked the phone up to me. And, you know, we're here to help. You know, it's not impossible. to just reach out to someone, and there's always somebody available. There's always somebody that will listen. And that's what I found, that I shouldn't have held in over them years when I did as a player and I did as a coach. It's okay to talk. It's okay to be a man, to cry, to show your emotions. It's okay to say, I need help and I need to see somebody and speak to somebody.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, and it's something that we've obviously been pushing with our campaign, as you know, to speak up. I remember, even just to kind of piggyback off that, my own situation back in 2013 with one of my friends. I was going through, again, after I left Dundalk, I was going through a tough time, and never realised how that I wasn't dealing with it properly. And I remember just in the smoking area of a pub down in Cavan one night, just breaking down into tears, you know, and speaking to one of my mates who'd also lost a friend around that time. He started crying too, and the next day the two of us felt miles better, you know. And it's
absolutely, it's
something as simple as having a little cry and talking about it, you know. It sounds easier than it is, I know, in the culture that it's hard to speak out, but it definitely does help. So just I've got a couple more questions for you, Dave. I know you're busy with work down in Arizona. So obviously, coaching in a foreign country, and you mentioned that, you know, you moved out to Arizona a year ago. I believe only in the last month, 2 months, your family have moved out there or out with you right now. It can be tough, and given that we're currently Ireland's currently in a lockdown and the world's just a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
If you feel yourself getting down in those moments where you're on your own, do you have any coping mechanisms nowadays to help you get through that?
Dean, do you know what? One thing and again, if I touch back on the situation in India as well, when the wife and kids never moved to India, and I think the longest I went without seeing them was 6 months. Sometimes you get engrossed in the job, in the work. I'm sure you can vouch as a coach, and I'm sure any ex-player or coach now that, you know, that is doing what we're doing, you do get engrossed in it, and it's like everything else becomes second nature, and you're focusing so much on your job and your coaching and the hours. But one thing I've learned to do is to spend some time on my own, as in, it could be a drive in the car. I could go out and drive for an hour with a bit of music on. You know, I could get on a bike ride and reading books. I found out when I went and reached out to a counsellor that she made it clear to me that I need my time. I've got to focus on me as well. You know, even with your family or with your workplace, you've got to have your time. So for me, I really enjoy, even if it's just a stroll. I mean, you know yourself, in the USA, we're blessed. There's that many parks and you know, scenery and areas that you can go to and have a little bit of peace and quiet. And so for me, it's being that sort of spending my time. It can be as simple as lying on the bed with your earphones in, you know, listening to your iPod, listening to a bit of music, listening to the ebooks, whatever you feel. But definitely having a bit of me time is where I sort of recuperate, you know, sort of reflect, and it sort of recharges the batteries. Whereas in the past, there was no time for me. It was time for everybody else and worrying about this situation and how can I fix this. And the family, as you know, they get pushed to one side. So again, if I can offer anyone advice, it's definitely speak to people, and go and speak to a stranger. I done it. I spoke to a stranger that knew nothing about me, that never judged me, and I found that was really warming, and really, you know, it gripped me. And you know, again, spending some time for yourself. You can always find 30 minutes to an hour every day for you. And that's something that I'd highly recommend to anybody out there that, you know, is going through a tough time and really wants to regenerate themselves and re-energize themselves.
Dave, this has been fantastic. Really appreciate you coming on and opening up. It's obviously it's a subject that nobody finds easy. I don't think, no matter how many times you speak about it, no one's going to find easy talking about issues that they've had themselves. So on behalf of myself and the lads involved in Head in the Game, we appreciate it. And just the last question, and I think you kind of answered it there, but maybe just to reiterate some of the points for anybody that's listening in, who might have been impacted by today's conversation. Have you got any message that you just want to say at the end of this?
Yeah, I mean, Dean, I just want to let people know that it's okay, you know, not to be okay. it's not, you're not an alien, you're not some monster, you're not a bad person. You know, I know it firsthand. I've gone, like we spoke about, don't be afraid to reach out to people.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely always somebody at the end of a phone, at the end of a message, you know, a face-to-face conversation. So for me, you know, heading the game is a fantastic incentive, a fantastic product that you guys have brought to the table. And I know it's going to get full support. I'll fully support it. The club, you know, you're already getting great support from all angles. But to everybody and anybody out there, don't be afraid, guys, to pick up the phone, to knock on someone's door, to reach out to anybody, because we are going through an unprecedented time. We're going to face more challenges. But hey, let's go and face them together, and let's reach out for each other and make sure that everyone's okay.
Brilliant. Dave Rogers, thank you very much, sir.
Dean,
all
much
the best.
appreciated, pal.
And I'm sure we'll be in touch again soon. All right.
Happy to help, and stay safe, my friend.
Thanks, pal.
Cheers, Dean.
Thank you to Dave. That was really a powerful conversation that we had. I appreciate his time. You know, again, on behalf of myself and the lads, big thank you to Dave for opening up. I think a lot of people that have just listened to that are going to get something out of it. You know, as we say, a lot of what we're trying to do with Head in the Game, we're trying to raise awareness. We're trying to start a conversation around mental health, and that starts with people like Dave. You know, he may have been a football player, may have been a very successful one in Ireland, but he's been willing to open up. You know, he's the same as every one of us, and just by him opening up with his situation, I hope that's just going to resonate with people. If you were listening to our podcast, if you feel like you're struggling, you know, if you need someone to reach out to, you can reach out to our Facebook pages, our Twitter page, Instagram, and we can point you in the direction of our two fantastic charity partners, Shine and Jigsaw. And we would like to thank again everybody for supporting what we do. We hope to be back with another conversation soon. Until then, keep an eye on our social media page. We've got a lot going on. Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep your head in the game.